Right. So is this you, Stead, or me?
Yeah. Oh, hello everyone. I'll hand you over to Prudence, who will formally welcome you and say something about what we will be doing today.
Right. So welcome everyone who's logged on to listen to read this very obscure poem of early modern English from about the time of Shakespeare. I've got it written 1591. It was published. I think we said somewhere around 1580, perhaps written. I think probably later than 1580, in that it was 1580 when Spenser was sent to Ireland as secretary to an Irish landowner. And he lived in Ireland until in one of the many freedom fights, rebellions, whatever you want to call it, his house was burnt down, and he returned to England and died in 1599. So he lived nearly 50 years and was said to have died of hunger because he was destitute after his house burning down. But this poem, "The Ruins of Time," is one that laments the death of various noblemen he knew. It's an elegy. Somebody else might know a little more about why it was written, why he chose to commemorate these particular people. And for me, I mentioned this rather flippantly when we were talking at our planning meeting in January about what we could read, something lesser known. Oh, I said, Spenser's Ruins of Time. And yes, they said. Well, the reason it came to mind was because a couple of verses from near the end have stayed in my mind since about age 15, when I was studying English literature, and these kind of stuck with me. So Spenser has always been a sort of friend to me, but I must say I haven't read his work for many, many, many years. But I love the cadence of this poem. I love the way he handles the language. So I hope you'll all be able to bear with my enthusiasm in reading this and deciphering things that are less clear. Okay.
So we will do what we normally do and take turns in reading, and we'll see how we get on with the unusual spelling. Now I'll go to the screen share.
Should we stop after every 3 verses or so and explain anything unclear? Or perhaps after each person's read, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, how maybe if someone wants to make a point, we should stop. Yeah. Okay. Let's try that first and see how it goes. If I may, I'll start reading and see whether I can do it without making too many mistakes. And if people don't get things which they feel they ought to, they should speak up, and then we can all, try to offer an explanation.
Well, should I start?
It's entirely up to you. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
I'll start because
go on.
I'm the one who landed you with this. So
yeah.
I will introduce it. Okay. So Spenser, The Ruins of Time. It chanced me one day beside the shore of silver streaming Thamesis to be, nigh where the goodly Verulamium stood of yore, of which there now remains no memory, nor any little monument to see, by which the traveller that fares that way, this once was she, may warned be to say. There on the other side,
Prudence, I think we should say that Verulamium is, in my understanding, it's the Roman town, Verulamium, I think it was, that
yes.
is now known as St Albans.
Yes,
that's
I think.
The Thames, is it? Or
no, I think yes, you're right. That there was a myth that the Thames moved
Yes.
And I think that is referenced later on in the poem. So this character of the town that's referred to as Verulamium is a sort of a distinct kind of person in the poem.
Yes. So she's personified as a woman wailing.
Yeah.
And of course you can walk around the Roman ruins even nowadays. So here's the personification coming in. There on the other side I did behold a woman sitting sorrowfully wailing, rending her yellow locks like wiry gold about her shoulders carelessly down training, and streams of tears from her fair eyes forth rolling, that is. In her right hand a broken rod she held, which towards heaven she seemed on high to weld. And weld is to wield. Whether she were one of that river's nymphs which did the loss of some dear love lament, I doubt, or one of those three fatal imps which draw the days of men forth in extent, the three fates, or the ancient genius of that city Brent. But seeing her so piteously perplexed, I to her calling asked what her so vexed. Ah, what delight, quoth she, in earthly thing or comfort can I, wretched creature, have, whose happiness the heavens envying from highest stair to lowest step me drave, and have in mine own bowels made my grave, that of all nations now I am forlorn, the world's sad spectacle and fortune's scorn. Much was I moved at her piteous plaint, and felt my heart nigh riven in my breast, torn apart, that is, with tender ruth to see her sore constraint, that shedding tears a while I still did rest, and after did her name of her request. Name have I none, quoth she, nor any being, bereft of both by fate's unjust decreeing. I was that city which the garland wore of Britain's pride, delivered unto me by Roman victors, which it won of yore, though naught at all but ruins now I be, and lie in mine own ashes, as ye see. Verulamium I was, what boots it that I was, sith now I am but weeds and wasteful grass. O vain world's glory, and unsteadfast state of all that lives on face of sinful earth, which from their first until their utmost date taste no 1 hour of happiness or mirth, but like as at the ingate of their birth they crying creep out of their mother's womb, so wailing back go to their woeful tomb. Why then doth flesh, a bubble glass of breath, hunt after honour and advancement vain, and rear a trophy for devouring death with so great labour and long-lasting pain, as if his days forever should remain, sith all that in this world is great or gay doth as a vapour vanish and decay. Look back who list unto the former ages, and call to count what is of them become. Where be those learned wits and antique sages, which of all wisdom knew the perfect sum? Where those great warriors which did overcome the world with conquest of their mighty main, and made one mere of earth and of their reign? What now is of the Assyrian lioness, of whom no footing now on earth appears? What of the Persian bear's outrageousness, whose memory is quite worn out with years? Who of the Grecian leopard now aught hears, that overran the east with greedy power, and left his whelps their kingdoms to devour? The Assyrian lioness and the Persian bears are from the Lamentations of Jeremiah, apparently. All the Christians would recognize this.
And the whelps, I believe, refer to the successors of Alexander the Great.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yes, or fighting amongst themselves as successors do. And where is that same great seven-headed beast that made all nations vassals of her pride, to fall before her feet at her behest, and in the neck of all the world did ride. Where doth she all that wondrous wealth now hide? With her own weight down pressed now she lies, and by her heaps her hugeness testifies. That's Rome, of course, which was more or less a village of ruins at the time of Spenser, with shepherds kind of camping under the walls. O Rome, thy ruin I lament and rue, and in thy fall my fatal overthrow that while on was, whilst heavens with equal view deign to behold me and their gifts bestow, the picture of thy pride in pompous show, and of the whole world as thou wast the empress, so I of this small northern world was princess. To tell the beauty of my buildings fair, adorned with purest gold and precious stone, to tell my riches and endowments rare, that by my foes are now all spent and gone, to tell my forces matchable to none, were but lost labour that few would believe, and with rehearsing would be more aggrieve. High towers, fair temples, goodly theatres, strong walls, rich porches, princely palaces, large streets, brave houses, sacred sepulchres, sure gates, sweet gardens, stately galleries, wrought with fair pillars and fine imageries. All these, O pity, now are turned to dust, and overgrown with black oblivion's rust. Thereto, for warlike power and people's store, in Brittany was none to match with me, that many often did abide full sore, nay, Troynovant, though elder sister she, we've got Troynovant is London, yeah. Nay, Troynovant, though elder sister she, with my great forces might compared be, that stout Pendragon to his peril felt, who in a siege 7 years about me dwelt. But long ere this, Bunduca, Britanest, that's Boudica, her mighty host against my bulwarks brought. Bunduca, that victorious conqueress, that lifting up her brave heroic thought above women's weakness, with the Romans fought and in field against them thrice prevailed. Yet was she foiled when as she me assailed. And though at last by force I conquered were of hardy Saxons and became their thrall, yet was I with much bloodshed bought full dear, and prized with slaughter of their general, the monument of whose sad funeral, for wonder of the world, long in me lasted, but now to naught through spoil of time is wasted. Wasted it is as if it never were, and all the rest that me so honoured made, and of the world admired everywhere, is turned to smoke that doth to nothing fade. And of that brightness now appears no shade, but grisly shades, such as do haunt in hell, punning on shade as ghost, with fearful fiends that in deep darkness dwell. Where my high steeples whilom used to stand, on which the lordly falcon wont to tower, there now is but an heap of lime and sand for the screech owl to build her baleful bower. And where the nightingale wont forth to power her restless plaints to comfort wakeful lovers, there now haunt yelling mews and whining plovers.
Mews are gulls, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think, yes.
We have, well, that's excellent, but should we have other people reading as well?
Yes, give someone else a go.
Yeah.
Yeah, shall I, or Michael, I mean, you mean you'd quite like to do it, or
well, I'm not particularly proposing myself, but I mean, I could do it, but we've got lots of people.
I'll do it if no one has any objections. And where the crystal Tamis wont to slide in silver channel down along the Lee, about whose flowery banks on either side 1,000 nymphs with mirthful jollity were wont to play, from all annoyance free, and There now no river's course is to be seen, but moorish fens and marshes evergreen. Seems that gentle river, for great grief of my mishaps, which oft I to him complained, or for to shun the horrible mischief with which he saw my cruel foes me pained, and his pure streams with guiltless blood off-stained, from my unhappy neighbourhood far fled, and his sweet waters away with him led. There also, where the winged ships were seen in liquid waves to cut their foamy way, and thousand fishes numbered to have been, in that wide lake looking for plenteous prey of fish which they with baits used to betray, is now no lake, nor any fisher's store, nor ever ship shall sail there any more. They are all gone, and all with them is gone. Nor aught to me remains but to lament my long decay, which no man else doth moan, and moan my fall with doleful dreament. Yet it is comfort in great languishment to be bemoaned with compassion kind, and mitigates the anguish of the mind. But me no man bewaileth but in game, nor sheddeth tears from lamentable eye, nor any lives that mentioneth my name to be remembered of posterity, save one, that more fortune's injury, in spite of fortune's injury, and time's decay, that envy's cruel taught, wrong or injury, hath writ my record in true seeming sort. Camden, the nurse, it says here, of antiquity, and lantern unto late succeeding age, to see the light of simple verity, buried in ruins, through the great outrage of her own people, led with warlike rage. Camden, through time all monuments obscure, yet thy just labours ever shall endure.
William Camden was an early antiquarian who wrote a description of many parts of Britain which he travelled through and aimed to restore, he said, antiquity to Britain and Britain to antiquity. So to create the history and the legendarium of Britain.
Thank you. But while unhappy wight do I thus cry and grieve that my remembrance quite is raised, I think that probably should be, out of the knowledge of posterity, and all my antique monuments defaced. Sith I do daily see things highest placed, as soon as fates their vital thread have shorn, forgotten quite as they were never born. It is not long since these two eyes beheld a mighty. It's curious. Eyes is here written as eyes, but earlier it was written differently. I don't know whether that's this text or that was in the original. So I do it again. It is not long since these two eyes beheld a mighty prince of most renowned race, whom England high in count of honour held, and greatest ones did sue to gain his grace. O greatest ones he, greatest in his place, sat in the bosom of his sovereignty, and right and royal did his word maintain. That is the motto of the Earl of Leicester, Robert someone. I'm just what's his name? Prudence? Robert.
Robert Dudley.
Yes,
Dudley.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean he was I think the most powerful statesman of the Elizabethan age, arguably, and he had waited a long time with the possibility of marrying Queen Elizabeth, but that didn't happen. But he is referred to several times in this poem, which is in some sense in his praise.
Wasn't he executed, or am I confusing him with another earl? Wasn't there a
No,
rebellion?
Earl of Essex, I think.
Oh, it's Essex and not Leicester.
No, he died. He died of possibly a broken heart. He let me see, what am I next? He died anyway of ill health. He caught gangrene or something, and some people said it was poisoning. But also, he was a great favourite of Elizabeth II.
Okay.
First, you mean first?
Sorry.
He may be the favourite of Elizabeth II. We don't know.
Maybe also, yes, of Elizabeth I.
Right.
And their letters were marked with 2 eyes. I noticed the 2 eyes in that opening line.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 2 eyes was their code for letters to each other, apparently.
Wasn't it his wife that fell down the stairs?
That's right. And it was, of course, rumoured that he pushed her. So he
Yes, that's right. And I think she died. Yeah.
Yes. And so he always, a bit like the current Duke of York, was under a cloud, although nothing was proven.
I think he'd waited a long time, and he finally remarried, and immediately the woman he remarried was banned from court. So I suppose that indicates that the Queen was not pleased that
in Aubrey's John Aubrey's Brief Lives,
yes,
there is a short description of Edmund Spenser. He was a little man, all short hair, little band, and little cuffs. Not all little.
Fascinating.
Yes. Aubrey's Brief Lives, a wonderful book.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, do you have it with? Did you have a description of Leicester, the Earl of Leicester?
Well, I would have to look up because it's different entries.
All right.
So I would have to look it up.
Oh, I'll move on.
This poem, I realise, is dedicated to Leicester's sister. The Countess of Pembroke was the sister of the Earl of Leicester, and he died in 1588. So I guess if it was written in 1590 or 91, it would be a sort of a gift to her about loss and bereavement.
I saw him die as one of the mean people, and brought forth on a bier. I saw him die, and no man left to mourn his doleful fate that late him loved dear. Scarce any left to close his eyelids near, scarce any left upon his lips to lay the sacred sod or requiem to say. Oh, trust this state of miserable men, that build your bliss on hope of earthly thing, and vainly think yourselves half happy then, when painted faces with smooth flattering do fawn on you, and your wide praises sing. And when the courting masker louteth about low, him true in heart and trusty to you trow. Belief or offer respect, I think. All is feigned and with ochre dyed, that every shower will wash and wipe away. All things do change that under heaven abide, and after death all friendship doth decay. Therefore, whatever man bearst worldly sway, living on God and on thyself rely. For when thou diest, all shall with thee die. Ochre, I think, is it's something used in cosmetics, really. That, something face paint. He now is dead, and all is with him dead, save what in heaven's storehouse he uplaid. His hope is fallied, and come to pass his dread. And evil men now dead his deeds upbraid. Spite bites the dead that living never bade. He now is gone, the whiles the fox is crept into the hole, the which the badger swept. Do you know what that refers to, Prudence?
No, I think it's just a general, it's saying, oh, that's right. It's saying since he died, now everybody said, well, of course, he really pushed her down the stairs, didn't he?
The Fox and the Badger. I think that refers to, I think, two of the figures. I think that were quite prominent at the time. Yeah, I think the Fox is Lord Burleigh and William Cecil is the Badger. But anyway, that's
okay. Yes, that makes sense. Yeah.
Right.
And this is one of those verses that remains with me. I think as a teenager, I was very struck by don't trust your reputation to other people.
Yes.
Okay.
He now is dead, and all his glory gone, and all his greatness vapoured to naught, that as a glass upon the water shone, which vanished quite so soon as it was sought. His name is worn already out of thought, nor any poet seeks him to revive, yet many poets honoured him alive. Nor doth his Colin, careless Colin clout, that refers that's sort of a pen name, I think, of Edmund Spenser, isn't it, Prudence? Or he used that in some times.
It is. Yeah. Yes.
Care now his idle bagpipe up to raise, nor tell his sorrow to the listening rout of shepherd grooms which wont his souls to praise. Praise whoso list, yet I will him dispraise, until he acquit him of this guilty blame. Wake, shepherd's boy, at length awake for shame. And who so else did goodness by him gain, and who so else his bounteous mind did try experience, whether he shepherd be or shepherd swain, for many did which do it now deny, awake and to his song apart apply, and I, the whilst you mourn for his decease, will with my mourning plaints your plaint increase. Michael, do you want to have a go? I feel I've.
Which Michael?
Oh, so yeah,
lots of Michaels.
Yeah, there are lots of Michaels. Plenum of my. You please, yeah.
Okay. He died, and after him his brother died, his brother prince, his brother noble peer, that whilst he lived was of none envied, and dead is now as living counted dear. Dear unto all that true affection bear, but unto thee most dear, O dearest dame, his noble spouse and paragon of fame. He, whilst he lived, happy was through thee, and being dead, is happy now much more, living, that linked chanced with thee to be, and dead, because him dead thou dost adore as living, and thy lost dear love deplore. So whilst that thou, fair flower of chastity, doth live, by thee thy Lord shall never die. Thy Lord shall never die, the whiles this verse shall live, and surely it shall live forever. Forever it shall live, and shall rehearse his worthy praise and virtues dying never, though death his soul do from his body sever. And though thyself herein shalt also live, such grace the heavens do to my verses give. Nor shall his sister nor thy father die, thy father, that good earl of rare renown, and noble patron of weak poverty, whose great good deeds in country and in town have purchased him in heaven an happy crown, where he now liveth in eternal bliss, and left his son to ensue those steps of his. He, noble bud, his grandsire's lively heir, under the shadow of thy countenance now, gins to shoot up fast and flourish fair in learned arts and goodly governance, that him to highest honour shall advance. Brave imp of Bedford, grow apace in bounty, and count of wisdom more than of thy county. Nimai let thy husband's sister die, that goodly lady, sis she eke did spring out of this stock and famous family, whose praises I to future age do sing, and forth out of her happy womb did bring the sacred brood of learning and all honour, in whom the heavens powered all their gifts upon her. Most gentle spirit breathed from above, out of the bosom of the Maker's bliss, in which all bounty and all virtuous love appeared in their native properties, and did enrich that noble breast of his with treasure passing all this world's worth, worthy of heaven itself, which brought it forth. His blessed spirit, full of power divine and influence of all celestial grace, loathing this sinful earth and earthly slime, fled back too soon into his native place, too soon for all that did his love embrace, too soon for all this wretched world whom he robbed of all right and true nobility. Yet ere his happy soul to heaven went, out of this fleshly goal, he did devise unto his heavenly Maker to present his body as a spotless sacrifice, and chose that guilty hands of enemies should pour forth the offering of his guilty's blood, so life exchanging for his country's good. O noble spirit, live therefore ever blessed, the world's late wonder and the heaven's new joy. Live ever there, and leave me here distressed, with mortal cares and cumbrous world's annoy. But where thou dost that happiness enjoy, bid me, oh bid me quickly come to thee, that happy there I may thee always see. Yet whilst the fates afford me vital breath, I will it spend in speaking of thy praise, and sing to thee until that timely death by heaven's doom do end my earthly days. There too do thou my humble spirit raise, and into me that sacred breath inspire, which thou there breathest perfect and entire. Then will I sing, but who can better sing than thine own sister, peerless lady bright, which to thee sings with deep heart sorrowing, sorrowing tempered with desire, with dear delight, that her to hear I feel my feeble sprite robbed of sense and ravished with joy. Oh, sad joy, made of mourning and annoy. Yet will I sing, but who can better sing than thou thyself, thine own self's valiance, that whilst thou liv'dst madest the forests ring and fields resound and flocks to leap and dance and shepherds leave their lambs unto mischance to run thy shrill Arcadian pipe to hear. Oh, happy were those days, thrice happy were. But now more happy thou and wretched me, which want the wonted sweetness of thy voice, whilst thou now in Elysian fields, so free with Orpheus and with Linus, and the choice of all that ever did in rhymes rejoice, conversest, and dost hear their heavenly lays, and they hear thine, and thine do better praise. So there thou livest, singing evermore, and here thou livest, being ever song of us, which living loved thee afore, and now thee worship mongst that blessed throng of heavenly poets and heroes strong. So thou both here and there immortal art, and everywhere through excellent desired. Perhaps enough.
Beautiful, yeah. Perhaps do we have a lady reading? I can just see Catherine in the picture. Catherine, do you want to take it up when Michael's left it after this art?
Sorry,
So
drink. After.
Yeah. So but such.
Such as neither of themselves can sing, nor yet are sung of others for reward, die in obscure oblivion as the thing which never was, may ever with regard their names shall of the later age be heard, but shall in rustic darkness ever lie, unless they by mention be with infamy. What booted it to have been?
Can people hear? I can't hear.
It's a bit faint, yeah.
Oh,
it's very faint.
Now?
No, it's clear, yeah.
What booteth it to have been rich alive? What to be great? What to be gracious? When after death no token doth survive the former being in this mortal house, but sleeps in dust, dead and inglorious, like beast whose breath but in his nostrils is, and hath no hope of happiness or bliss. How many great ones may remembered be, which in their days most famously did flourish, of whom no word we hear, nor sign now see, but as things whipped out with a sponge, wiped out with a sponge to perish, because thy living cared not to cherish. No gentle wits, through pride or covetise, which might their names ever memorize. Provide therefore, ye princes, how to live, that is the reason ye may friendly be, which unto men eternity do give, for I be daughters of same memory, and love the Father of eternity, and do those men in golden thrones repose, with merit try to glorify his shoes. So, the sevenfold iron gate mandates of grisly health, and horrid house of sad Proserpina, thy able are with power and mighty spell to break, and thence the souls to bring away out of dread darkness to eternal day, and them immortal make which else would die in foul forgetfulness and nameless lie. So whilom raised thy the puissant brood of golden girl Alcmena for great merit, out of the dust to which the ocean wood had him consumed and spent his vital spirit, to highest heaven, where now he doth inherit all happiness in Hebe's silver bower, chosen to be her dearest paramour. So raise thy eke fairy Ledae's warlick twins, and interchange life unto them lent, that when the one dies, the other then begins to show in heaven his brightness orient. And thy, for pity of the sad lament, which Orpheus for Eurydice did make, her back again to life sent for his sake.
If I could just give these two twins, I think it's Castor and Pollux, one of whom was immortal. I think it was I think it was Pollux that was immortal, and they decided to share a residence in sort of heaven and earth. I think just 6 months, when one died. Sorry.
So, but yeah, actually, I would quite like to know a bit more about those references, because I'm quite confused. I don't know what the Otian wood is, and there was a bit before as well.
Alcmena was the mother of Heracles, and her name means strong in wrath. And after her husband Amphitryon died, she married Rhadamanthys, who was the brother of Minos, the wise judge. But I don't know any more about her really than that. The Aeaean wood is in Thessaly, but I don't actually know this particular myth. So I think to be followed up. Before that, it seems to be suggesting, I'm not sure who gave birth to Orpheus, whose son he was. I get the impression that Orpheus now is in eternity and is better off than when he was alive.
I think it is to be borne in mind that sometimes the author gets these things, well, when he gets them wrong, it's not necessarily the standard version. That is a thing to bear in mind.
Oh, really? Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's right, isn't it, Prudence? He's known for not always being.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and of course, different versions were going around. They were just rediscovering the texts.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. No, I think.
So I think he's just saying, even though a person dies, if their name lives on after them, then they're favoured by the muses, and poets will be favoured after death for doing what they do. Both.
No, so I think So happy are they, I think.
And the Pierian sacred sisters are the muses. They're coming up.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry to Catherine. You don't. I'll do it for a bit more, and then maybe pass it on to Father Frank to have a male voice, maybe.
So happy are they, and so fortunate, whom the Pierian sacred sisters love, that freed from bands of implacable or unappeasable fate and power of death, they live the A above, where mortal reach their bliss may not remove, but with the gods the form of verities lead, on nectar and ambrosia do feed. I'll do one more and leave it then. For deeds do die, however noble done, and thoughts of men do as themselves decay. But wise words taught in numbers sure to run, recorded glad muses, live for A. May with storming showers be washed away. May bitter breathing winds with harmful blast, nor age nor envy shall them ever waste.
Thanks very much, Catherine. Father Frank, perhaps you could continue.
Yes. In vain do earthly princes then in vain secret pyramids to heaven aspire, or huge colossus built with costly pain, or brazen pillars never be fired, or shrines made of the metal most desired, to make their memories forever live. For how can mortal immortalities give? Such one morsel is made, the world's great wonder, and now no remnant doth thereof remain, such as one Marcellus, that was torn with thunder, such one Lysippus, that is worn with rain, such one King Edmund, that was rent for gain. All such vain monuments of earthly mass, devoured of time in time to naught, do pass. A fame with golden wings aloft does fly, above a rich or ruinous decay, and with brave plumes does beat the azure sky, admired of base-born men from far away. Then whoso will with virtuous deeds assay to mount to heaven on Pegasus must ride, and with sweet poets' verse be glorified. For not to have been dipped in Lee's lake could save a son of Thetis from to die, but the blind bard did him immortal make with verses dipped in dew of Castaly.
That's Achilles, immortalized by Homer.
Yes, and further up, I had all sorts of so, for example, Marcellus is a reference to Augustus' nephew, wasn't he? He was the son of his sister and drowned as a young man. And Virgil has a famous line in the Aeneid, "Tu eris Marcellus, you were Marcellus." And when Virgil recited this line, Marcellus' mother died. Not die, sorry, I beg your pardon. She fainted. But I can't remember all this. Sorry, that's just a drag, a little sort of line.
Who's King Edmund? Is this Edmund Ironside? Or?
I don't know.
It might be Edmund of East Anglia, who was rent for gain. He did a deal with the invading Viking army, the Great Army, so and gave himself up to be ritually slaughtered with arrows, so that they would. There was some deal about how they would rule the land, East Anglia. So it could possibly that he was the king of East Anglia.
Yes. Bury St. Edmunds. Edmunds.
Indeed, yes.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
I thought Vikings killed him, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yes. The Vikings. The Vikings sent the great army to conquer England, starting with East Anglia, and they were going to do lots and lots of rape and pillage. And King Edmund did some sort of deal with them, but that involved they would not cause such mayhem, but that did involve his death. and it seems to have been a ritual death of some sort, something to do with the Viking gods. I don't know. The god of arrows is Uli, but we know no more than that.
And
So-
further down, the reference to the Leith lake, wasn't it a lake which you, if you dipped in the lake, you achieved forgetfulness?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Think of Hamlet. Duller should thou be than that fat weed which roots itself with ease upon the Lethe wharf, should not thou stir in this.
I think you reached out of that one, Michael. I can't imagine you remembering by heart.
I do remember quite a lot of the ghosts.
Oh, okay.
I am thy father's spirit, doomed to
I
certain
take my hat off.
Yeah.
The son of Thetis, isn't that Achilles?
It is.
Yes, okay.
I would express reservations about accepting the story about the Vikings being just happy to have Edmund killed. And I don't know. It sounds slightly,
Slightly unlikely.
Yeah, it sounds very unlikely. If they had been offered something, some gold or something, but just having someone put to anyway. Now, I think we're down to
Lethe Lake, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
I interrupted there.
Yeah. No. Father Frank, are you still there? To
Yeah, I'm here. Where would I pick up again?
After
Casterly?
Well,
for not to have been dipped in Lethe Lake.
Yeah.
Start that verse again, I think.
Yeah, okay. For not to have dipped in Lethe Lake could save the son of Thetis from to die, but the blind bard did him immortal make, with verses dipped in dew of Casterly, which made the Eastern conqueror to cry, O fortunate young man, whose virtue found so brave a trumpet thy noble axe to sound. Therefore, in this half-happy do I read, consider, good Melibert, but hath a poet got to sing his living praises being dead, deserving never here to be forgot, in spite of envy that his deeds would spot, since whose disease learning lies unregarded, and men of arms do wander unrewarded. Those two great calamities, when long ago did grieve the noble sprite of Solomon with great indignities, who whilom was alive with the wisest white, but now his wisdom is disproved quite, for he even now wells all things at his will, wells wills, scorns the one and the other in his deeper skill. O grief of griefs, O goal of all good hearts, to see the virtue should despise be of him that first was raised with virtuous parts, and now broad spreading like an aged tree, let none shoot up and nigh him planted be. O let the man whom the muses scorn, nor alive nor dead, be of the muse adorned. O vile world's trust, such vain illusion has so wise men bewitched and overcast, that they see not the way of their confusion, O vainness to be added to the rest, that do my soul with inward grief infest. Let them behold the piteous fall of me, and in my case their only example see. And whoso else sits in highest seat of his world's glories worshipped of all, ne feareth change of time, no fortune's threat. Let him behold the horror of my fall, and his own end unto remembrance call. Without like ruin he may warned be, and in himself be moved to pity me. Thus having ended all her piteous plaint, with doleful shrieks she vanish away, but I through inward sorrow vex and faint, and all astonished with deep dismay for her departure, had no word to say. But sate long time in senseless sad affright, looking still, if I might of her have sighed. which when I missed, having looked long, my thought returned, grieved home again, renewing her complaint with passion pain, whose words recorded in my troubled brain, I felt such anguish wound my feeble heart, a frozen horror ran through every part. So in my grieving, in my groaning breast, and deeply musing at her doubtful speech, whose meaning much I labour for to rest, being above my slender reason to reach, at length by demonstration me to teach, before mine eyes strange sights presented where, like tragic pages seem to appear.
Most natural sounding thanks to speech software online.
Thank you. I don't know what the
I'm Joey, and I'm one of the 30 AI voices from speech.
background noise is. Thanks for the. I think now we've come to a.
Sorry, what was her voice?
I've no idea. I don't know.
Maybe it's. Maybe
it was Mick's image was showing sound. I think perhaps you ought to. It would help to mute.
Okay.
When someone else is speaking.
Yeah. Now let's have another. Let's have a female voice. I think now we're actually making very good progress. We don't have an enormous amount. But yeah. Krista, would you like to take it up from I Saw an Image?
I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
With the English.
yeah, no, that's good.
I saw an image, all of massy gold, placed on high upon an altar fair, that all which did the same from fair behold might worship it and fall on lowest stair. Not that great idol might with this compare, to which the Assyrian tyrant would have made the holy breathen falsely to have prayed. But the altar on the which this image stayed was, oh great pity, built of brickle clay, that shortly the foundation decayed, with showers of heaven and tempests worn away. Then down it fell, and low in ashes lay, scorned of every one which by it went, that I, it seeing, dearly did lament.
Prudence, what's that about, do you think?
I think she muted herself.
Prudence, are you muted?
Sorry, I'm muted. Yes, here we go. No, I have my notes don't say anything about that, and I didn't look that up. Meliboy, a few stanzas ago, was Sir Francis Walsingham, and his poet was Thomas Watson, for what it's worth. But this image of the image, no, I have no idea. It might just be general.
It sounds biblical in some reference.
Yes, we've got the golden altar. We've got a stately tower in number 2. We've got a pleasant paradise in number 3, and then a giant in number 4.
Yeah, it's.
But here it's certainly, to me, while I read this, we are talking about something that is either an altar or some kind of statue that was prayed to and worshipped, and then of course crumbled.
Yeah. I think it may relate to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Okay.
And the
in Daniel,
who defied the king in the fiery furnace. I think it might. Yeah. I think the Assyrian tyrant may be Nebuchadnezzar.
Okay, right.
Okay, so
was Nebuchadnezzar Assyrian? I thought it was Babylonian.
Oh well, I mean,
I thought it was Babylonian.
Yes, elsewhere he says Assyrian when we know it to be Babylonian.
Yeah. I mean, Assyrian's good enough, I suppose. Yeah, it's out there somewhere, isn't it?
But the Babylonians, in any case, had conquered Assyria before the Hebrews were taken there. So anyway, yeah.
All right, I'll perhaps do the next short one, please, Krista.
Next unto this a stately tower appeared, built all of richest stone that might be found, and nigh unto the heavens in height upreared, but placed on a plot of sandy ground, not that great tower which is so much renowned for tongues' confusion in holy writ. King Ninus' work might be compared to it, but O vain labours of terrestrial wit, that build so strong guile on a frail or soil, on so frail a soil, as with each storm does fall away and flit, and gives the fruit of all your travail toil, to be the prey of time and fortune's spoil. I saw this tower fall so dainly to dust, that nigh with grief thereof my heart was brust.
My reference is to this is the lighthouse of Pharos of Alexandria. So I suppose these two sections are things that have just trying to illustrate the vanity of human endeavour. Really, is that right, Prudence? Do you think? Please, you're on mute.
Wouldn't it be the Tower of Babylon?
Sorry, Michael?
Wouldn't it be the Tower of Babylon and the great confusion of tongues that followed from that?
That's what I thought. That's what I
yeah.
thought it was. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
In Holy Writ as well.
They talk about the Tower of Babel, but then they say it's not the Tower of Babel; it's another tower.
Where's that?
So, what I understand is to see, for not that great tower, which is so much renowned for tongues confusion in Holy Writ.
Yeah.
So although he says it's a tower, but it's not that one.
Yeah. Well brought to the attention.
Who is King Ninus?
Who's whom?
King Ninus,
founder of Nineveh, was frequently confused with Nimrod, who built Babel, apparently.
All right. I'm just looking back at the earlier in the poem, before just the stanza before number 1. The poet is shocked at the disappearance of the sort of genius of Verulamium, and says, "Before mine eyes strange sights presented were, like tragic pageants seeming to appear." So he's got that sort of visionary capacity, and he's seeing an imaginary image, comparing it to that of the Assyrian or Babylonian tyrant. Then he sees an image of a stately tower and compares it to the Tower of Babel. So I think as Krista said, he's generalizing and saying, look, whatever human beings build, as for example, the Tower of Babel, it will crumble into dust. I think these are just examples. This is a vision.
Michael in London, would you like to do the next...
Before that, may I mention, if you go to Baghdad, you can take a trip to the ruins of Babylon, and the Iraqis under Saddam Hussein have built some kind of reconstructions of the famous walls of Babylon and placed a museum in it. And in the days of Saddam Hussein, there was actually a huge mural showing a skirted Babylonian king handing some kind of keys of the cities to Saddam Hussein.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, and there was a writing, this has been built in the era of Saddam Hussein.
In the great tradition of his ancestors.
But some of the local guides, when we plugged a little trip to a Tower of Babel nearby, if you took that trip, you arrived some kind of ruins, which was no bigger the average landscape. So it's very disappointing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh well, it's good to smuggle in Saddam Hussein into this meeting. Yeah, that's well done.
But that's in ruin. Saddam is in ruin as well.
Yes, indeed. He's a good instance of that. Michael in London, please. Perhaps you could take.
Then did I see a pleasant paradise, full of sweet flowers and daintiest delight, such as on earth men could not more devise, with pleasure's choice to feed his cheerful sprites, not that which Merlin by his magic sleight made for the gentle squire to entertain his fair Phoebe could this garden stain. But oh, short pleasure brought with lasting pain, why will hereafter any flesh delight in earthly bliss and joy and pleasure's vain? Since that I saw this garden wasted quite, that where it was scarce seemed any sight, that I, which once that beauty did behold, could not from tears my melting eyes withhold. Any comments?
Yeah, any comments, Prudence?
No, I don't. Again, this is an example, a vision of a paradise, and then comparing it with Merlin by his magic sleights made for the gentle squire. I don't know what part of the Arthurian legend that is. To entertain his fair belle Phoebe. This I think is a reference to Queen Elizabeth I. Belle Phoebe to be understood as beautiful Diana. So it's a double reference, one from the Arthurian legend and another to Elizabeth again.
The Pleasant Paradise may well be a reference to the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, since there's monuments of the ancient world, kind of.
But Merlin and the Squire.
But that isn't, as you said, that certainly isn't. No. All right, Michael, perhaps you'd continue.
Soon after this, a giant came in place of wondrous power and of exceeding stature, that none durst view the horror of his face. Yet was he mild of speech and meek of nature, not he which in despite of his creator, with railing terms defied the Jewish host, might with his mighty ones in hugeness boast. For from the one he could to the other post stretch his long thighs and the ocean overstride, and reach his hand into his enemy's host, but see the end of pomp and fleshly pride. One of his feet unawares from him did slide, and down he fell into the deep abyss, where drowned with him is all his earthly bliss.
I think this two figures, the Colossus of Rhodes and Goliath, I think, there's a combined. Yeah, I mean, he seems to combine different things from different sources quite freely, doesn't he?
Very free. I mean, I don't remember Goliath slipping. He's
I think
killed by a stone. Fucking slip.
Is that not the?
But I think again, but once again, isn't this the visionary giant? I mean, this is active imagination, or it's the kind of esoteric work people do, inviting the images to emerge, and a giant will emerge, and then the seer compares it with other giants, but this visionary giant actually slipped into a very large abyss. However huge the giant is, he can also come to his end.
Michael, I think that's not. I mean, Michael in Germany. That's not Goliath. That's the Colossus. your stretchy, strong
Yeah.
thighs.
Okay, so I
ocean.
thought you said it was Goliath. Yeah.
Goliath is referred to as the defied the Jewish host that's above.
Yeah, it is confusing, isn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, I think he's talking. He's grabbing at two giants and. Right. So presumably there should be another wonder of the ancient world in 5.
I've got to say, are we going to have all 7 wonders of the world and how?
Oh, that's cool.
They say it could be that they're all hidden in this tale.
Yes.
So he's used the number 7 3 or 4 times, and at least 3 of the 7 wonders of the world has been mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah.
How the Hanging Gardens.
But the Hanging Gardens, the Colossus of Rhodes.
Colossus of Rhodes. The Tower of Babel.
And the pyramid. Didn't you refer to the pyramids?
Right.
Ah, yeah.
Where are the pyramids?
Somewhere early on there was something about.
Yeah. All right. Let's on with the next one about a bridge. Right. Someone look up the the 7 wonders. Michael, if you'd be so kind.
Then did I see a bridge made all of gold over the sea from one to the other side, without proper pillar to it uphold, but like a colored rainbow arched wide, not that great arch which Trajan edified, to be a wonder to all age ensuing, was matchable to this in equal viewing. But what boots it to see earthly things in glory or in greatness to excel? This time that great things in ruin bring. This goodly bridge, 1 foot not fastened well, can fail, and all the rest down shortly fell. Nay, of so brave a building aught remain, that grief thereof my spirit greatly pained.
Does anyone want? I think I know the answer to this. This is a bit like a quiz, isn't it?
My note says Trajan's bridge over the Danube.
I've got another suggestion: Xerxes' bridge across the Hellespont.
Was there a bridge across the Hellespont? My goodness.
Xerxes.
His pontoon bridge.
That kind of seems. Yeah, Xerxes was a sort of I mean, has all the proper degree of magnificence, I think, in this respect.
The reference to the Arch of Trajan, the Roman Emperor Trajan, but in Rome we got the Column of Trajan. I'm not aware of an Arch of Trajan.
To say, my notes in my book say that it's the bridge over the Danube which Trajan built. Trajan certainly conquered
Romania, Romania.
Of course, the important thing is what the writer believed to be true, not what is true. So we really it's a case of looking at his sources, I suppose.
But Xerxes' bridge across the Hellespont surely was boats, ships, side to side, a pontoon bridge.
Well,
was it not? A temporary one.
Yeah, I think so, but that might not preclude it from being mentioned, though. It was still a great kind of endeavour. But all right, let's go on to the next one.
Sorry, I saw 2 bears as white as any milk, lying together in a mighty cave, of mild aspect and hair as soft as silk, that savage nature seemed not to have, nor after greedy spoil of blood to crave. To fairer beasts might not elsewhere be found, although the compass world were soft around. But what can long abide above this ground in state of bliss or steadfast happiness? The cave in which these bears lay sleeping sound was but earth, and with her own weightiness upon them fell and did unawares oppress, that for great sorrow of their sudden fate, henceforth all world's felicity I hate. Much was I troubled in my heavy sprite at sight of these sad spectacles forth past, that all my senses were bereaved quite, and I in mine remained sore aghast. Distraught twixt fear and pity, when at last I heard a voice which loudly to me called, that with the sudden shrill I was appalled. Behold, said it, and by ensample see, that all is vanity and grief of mind. Nay, other comfort in this world can be, but hope of heaven and heart to God inclined, for all the rest must needs be left behind. With that it made me to the other side, to cast mine eye where other sights I spied.
Thank you very, very much. Prudence, are you there? Sorry, I can't see you. Whether you're
Sorry.
Yeah, you're on mute. Yeah, please.
I was mute. Yes, again. My notes say that in the book the two bears are Leicester and his brother.
Warwick. That's what I've got. Warwick.
Yep, there we are.
Yeah.
But in terms of mythology, the two bears, is that Callisto, and is that that wouldn't be the great bear and the little bear, would it? Wouldn't have thought so.
Is there necessarily any mythological allusion? I mean, is he just talking? You know, it might not be.
No, actually, he's not saying, but it's not those. He's just describing the two bears.
All right. Let's have another lady. Edith, are you there, please? Perhaps you could continue. Edith, Edith, are you there? Oh, if Edith, you don't reply very shortly, Alex, would you be willing to continue? Whoever. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, please. Yeah. If you could continue upon.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. Upon that famous river's further shore, there stood a snowy swan of heavenly hue, and gentle kind as ever fowl afore, a fairer one in all the goodly crew of white Stramonian brood might no man view. There he most sweetly sung the prophecy of his own death in doleful elegy. At last, when all his morning melody he ended had, that both the shores resounded, feeling the fit that him forewarned to die, with lofty flight above the earth he bounded, and out of sight to highest heaven mounted, where now he is become an heavenly sign. There now the joy is his, here sorrow mine. Whilst thus I looked, lo, adown the lea, I saw a harp strong with all this silver twine, and made of gold and costly ivory, that with whom seemed to have been the harp on which Dan, Orpheus, was seen, wild beasts and forests after him to lead. But was the harp of Felicities, now dead? At length out of the river it was reared, and borne above the clouds to be divined, whilst all the way most heavenly noise was heard of the strings, stirred with the warbling wind, that wrought both joy and sorrow in my mind. So now in heaven a sign it doth appear, the harp well known beside the northern bear. Soon after this I saw on the other side a curious coffer made of ebony wood, that in it did most precious treasure hide, exceeding all this base of world's good. Yet through the overflowing of the flood it almost drowned was, and done to naught. That sight thereof much grieved my pensive thought. At length, when most in peril it was brought, two angels, down descending with swift flight, out of the swelling stream it lightly caught, and twixt their blessed arms it carried quite above the reach of any living sight, so now is transformed into that star in which all heavenly treasures locked are. Looking aside, I saw a stately bed adorned all with costly cloth of gold, that might for any prince's couch be read, and decked with dainty flowers, as if it should be for some bride her joyous night to hold. Therein a goodly virgins we lay, a fairer wight never saw never summer's day. I heard a voice that called far away, and her awaking bade her quickly dight. For lo, her bridegroom was in ready array to come to her, and seek her love's delight. With that she started up with cheerful sight, when suddenly both bed and all was gone, and I and Lange left there all alone. Still as I gazed, I beheld where stood a knight all armed upon a winged steed, the same that was bred of Medusa's blood, on which Dan Perseus, born of heavenly seed, the fair Andromeda from peril freed. Full mortally this knight wounded was, that streams of blood forth flowed on the grass. Yet was he decked, small joy to him, alas, with many garlands for his victories, and with rich spoils, which late he did purchase through brave achievements from his enemies. Fainting at last through long infirmities, he smote his steed that straight to heaven him bore, and left me here his loss for to deplore. Lastly, I saw an ark of purest gold upon a brazen pillar standing high, which the ashes seemed of some great prince to hold, enclosed therein for endless memory of him whom all the world did glorify. Seemed the heavens with the earth did disagree, whether should of those ashes keeper be. At last meseemed wing-footed Mercury from heaven descending to appease their strife. The ark did bear with him above the sky, and to those ashes gave a second life, to live in heaven where happiness is rife, at which the earth did grieve exceedingly, and I for dole was almost like to die.
Well, perhaps we'll pause there. Prudence, are the last verses that Alex has just read, that they're all a form of encomium to Sir Philip Sidney? Is that
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Felicities is supposedly Sir Philip Sidney. And interestingly, this title, Dan Orpheus and Dan Perseus,
yes,
it makes us laugh nowadays. This is from Dominus. It's a version of Don, and it simply means sir or lord.
Right, that's interesting. Yeah.
It's a word of respect. Yeah.
For those that aren't aware, Sir Philip Sidney was a very significant poet. He wrote Arcadia, and he died in the Netherlands, I think, fighting in the Protestant cause, and is much celebrated as a hero, I think. And one can see that in these words. Yeah, I mean, I think he was obviously someone that Edmund Spenser felt close to. Do you know whether they were friends, or were they related through marriage or something?
Yes, I haven't got a note about that. It could have been. Apparently, Spenser wrote the poem Astrophel as a commemoration of Spenser.
Of Sidney.
Of Sidney, yes. And Sidney's sister Mary was a writer, translator, and literary patron. Now is she isn't. I'm getting the Mary, I think, mixed up with Mary Countess of Pembroke, to whom this work is dedicated.
Yes.
Yes. Anyway, Sidney was a poet and a Puritan and a Protestant, a very keen Protestant. and helped the Dutch free themselves from the Spanish Empire.
Yeah.
As in the opera Don Carlos.
Yes,
A
indeed.
note to Aubrey's entrance on Philip Sidney says that he was always considered a type of English chivalry.
Ah.
It's interesting because, you know, you think chivalry, cavaliers, you associate them with Charles I, with the cavaliers indeed.
Yeah.
Whereas if he was a Puritan,
yes,
in a way, you know, there seems to be a contrast, as it were. But the other thought I had, I was wondering about the readership of a poem like this. Quite clearly, it's crammed with mythological, learned references. Who, at the time, only, you know, certain group of people would have been able to glimpse even references. So it was very restricted readership.
Yeah,
I'd say that very, very courtly poetry, I suppose.
Yeah.
It was, yes, it's difficult to estimate the percentage, but it would have been severely less than 1% of the population, I would have thought. And it would almost have been written to a number of people that could be named, really. Surely the number that could decipher and appreciate the richness of the references.
But I mean, even until 100 years ago, when children, well, boys, I suppose, in public school educated, they would all know Latin and Greek to some extent. So many of these references might, I don't know, I think it might have struck a chord. But I mean, now everything is gone.
Yes, yes. Yes, but what I see though in this poem also is him reveling in these mythological references. I get the tremendous sense of enjoyment. He is comparing this with that and with that other mythological event and comparing it with something in the Bible. And you've got the Bible, Greek and Roman mythology, and present day politics. And he's just enjoying interweaving all of these.
Yeah, that's a very good point. He seems quite almost indiscriminate in the breadth of his reference. Really, no, that is true. It's contemporary as well. It's not just learned.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, not that one could possibly imitate it today, but I mean, if one were to write, well, fine poet, anything, it would have to be based on characters from cinema or from Netflix.
Yes.
And they would strike a chord. Many young people would know what they are. But I mean, mythology, no.
Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right. The mythology is the mythology that is alive to most people is different now, isn't it? I think that's probably the case.
Yes.
I thought it would be nice for you to read the final few words, though, Prudence, which we still left to,
Yes.
So,
okay.
Off you go.
L'envoi. Immortal spirit of Felicities, which now art made the heaven's ornament, that whilom was the world's chiefest riches, give leave to him that loved thee to lament his loss by lack of thee to heaven hent, and with last duties of this broken verse, broken with sighs, to deck thy sable hearse. And ye, fair lady, the honour of your days and glory of the world, your high thoughts scorn vouchsafe this monument of his last praise with some few silver dropping tears to adorn. And as ye be of heavenly offspring born, so unto heaven let your high mind aspire, and loathe this dross of sinful world's desire. The end.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So he's, I mean, the whole gist of it is, I think, well, we build power and wealth and such like in this world, but just don't rely on it lasting. the best way, well, he says, first of all, become a good person and get a good place in heaven, get the gods on your side. And then he also says, yes, but also get the poets on your side so that your memory remains.
Yes, indeed. I mean, that was a big, I think, concern with him, to raise the status of, in particular, English poetry. I think, because I mean, there was a period when composition in other languages was thought of as being quite of a high status. But I think he and Sir Philip Sidney both championed the use of English, and wrote about how flexible it was, how subtle it was, and powerful.
And I'm seeing this looking ahead to Milton. He's almost a halfway house between the sort of vigor of Shakespeare and the art of Milton. He's got traces of both.
I mean, the cadence of the verse, the music is once one gets to accustom the ear, it's very affecting, isn't it?
Yes,
It rolls on. Like a richly brocaded cloth with threads of gold and silver shot through, pictures that reference images from books one's read. So I think the bone structure, as it were, that the cloth is laid upon is the weakest part, but the cloth is really wonderful to behold and to sort of feel as one's reading it, I think. Michael in London, how did you find? Did you enjoy the language?
Oh, very much.
Yeah.
Yes, it's fascinating, and I love the rhythm that he creates in that. And no, I mean, I can't say I really know his works very well at all, but I'm really glad for Prudence for introducing us like this, and it was a real treasure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks for your note as well on the chat. Yeah.
Spenser is actually buried in Westminster Abbey.
Indeed.
And although I mean, he died in penurious circumstances.
Oh, I think that is debatable. I think the verse that Prudence referred to was written by Ben Jonson, and it may have been written not meant in a serious way. So I think that's a debatable matter. But sorry,
what's debatable?
How he died. I think Ben Jonson wrote that he died through lack of bread, but I'm not sure whether that was true or that was just.
Well, once again, I mean, in the case, I mean, it says he died in destitution. It says a comment to over his brief life, in destitution in London, because he left Ireland after an uprising, and he actually, I believe, if I remember correctly, one of his children died in the uprising.
That's
a small child. So the commentary here says he died in destitution. So presumably that's fairly up to date.
Well, I've read other accounts saying that it's not at all clear that that's the case.
Anyway, what other accounts?
His guarantee of the £50, whatever that was called, from the Queen, that he was getting that. I think destitution is more of a metaphor for what he lost his palace, he lost his residence. And he must have been quite ill to die at, I think, 46. So
he was, he was not old, yes. Well, people didn't live very long lives back then.
No, but he had lost a tremendous amount that he'd built up. He would be in shock. He died, 5 years after everything burnt down, I think. And so his immune system would be down. He'd be knocked out a bit. But in a very short tomb, Father Frank, I believe. He was a very small man.
Well, he was a shorter. Well, it says here that he was a little man with short hair, little band, and little cuffs.
Well,
and this is attributed to a Mr. Beeston. Mr. Beeston says he was a little man. We don't know who Mr. Beeston was.
I see. Mm.
But I mean, of course, Aubrey relied on all sorts of not only documents of things people told him, or
right.
people told him that they had been told themselves.
Yes. Yes.
I think the statement in contradiction to his destitution was that he had a pension of about £100.
That's a lot of money at the time.
Yeah,
£100. Wow.
Actually.
No, this is something different. That was something on a regular basis, a kind of well, I'm not sure what that was called exactly, but this was towards the end of his life. He had £100, more, you know. So that was quite a large amount of money to, you know, when he was nearing his life. But he was kind of officially sponsored, really, as Michael said, by receiving £50 kind of a state pension, as it were, during his life.
He was friends with the Archbishop of Usher, the Archbishop of Armagh, so he had was well connected.
Yes, indeed. Michael in Cologne, what's your? I mean, you're very familiar with the writing of Shakespeare. Well, how did you find this? I mean, he's one of the predecessors, and his style. How would you compare his style?
I wouldn't compare it personally very strongly to Shakespeare's style as I know it, at least in Shakespeare's plays. The writer I thought of much more listening to this was Dante, whose divine this intense interweaving of references with this relentless use of the rhyming couplets. And you ask yourself, how do these people do it? It's more astonishing than Shakespeare, because Shakespeare's, I'm not very familiar with Shakespeare's poetry, with his long poems.
Yeah.
But his plays, of course, to write a drama based on a story that you've picked up somewhere else, and in no way disparaging Shakespeare, but that seems to me to be an easier task in some way. They have this monumental energy to produce this poem that just flows on and flows on. And all these references drawn in the entire time, and this moralistic element, and this sense of the terribleness of life, and the only salvation is through God. Reminds me, I mean, yes, I think the English language was, of course, becoming an independent language in the sense that it was breaking away from the German elements of Chaucer, and it was really becoming the language of the Renaissance, becoming an international language in a sense. And that you feel there, and of course Shakespeare continued that. But I personally didn't find it very Shakespearean in its style and its illusions.
But what about Shakespeare's sonnets? His sonnets are very
yes. I would hesitate a little bit with the poetry. Up to a point, but Shakespeare's sonnets are very, very tight, and everything seems to refer effectively to something else in one short sonnet, whereas here there seem to be all kinds of loose ends, in the sense that not all these references are entirely satisfactory. I mean, we weren't quite sure which giant was referred to, which tower was referred to, which and so it's a sort of more confusing, I think.
It's interesting, Michael, you mentioned rhyming couplets. Milton, for example, if I remember correctly, discarded rhyming verse. But I must admit to a penchant towards rhyming verse. I mean, I know it's immensely different, but I like Alexander Pope. I absolutely adore Alexander Pope, because his verse is so easy to memorize. It's wonderful. Why hasn't man got a microscopic eye? Because man is not a fly. That'd be wonderful.
Yes.
Nature and nature's laws lay hid in night. God said, "Let Newton be," and all was light.
Which is on the funeral monument of Newton in Westminster Abbey.
Oh, really? There we are.
Prudence, how does this poem compare to the Fairy Queen structurally?
Structurally, the Fairy Queen, as I remember, the Fairy Queen uses the Spenserian stanza, which is the pentameter, as in this one, with a hexameter at the end. So, I can't quote it anything except there's a Milton, the Ode on the Morning of Christ's Nativity, does that he are mortal sinning should surcease, and with his Father work as a perpetual peace. You've got that hexameter at the end. And Spenser uses that throughout the Fairy Queen, but it's many years since I read the Fairy Queen. Is it? Which isn't in this volume.
Have you read the whole Fairy Queen? Because that's quite a substantial work.
Oh, years ago. But I was a forward child. The adult lending library had Spenser in. So no, but I mean the whole thing is just fascinating, and I guess we did this for A level and so on at school, and again looking at the references. Once upon a time, people did this kind of thing at school. I don't know what they do in the sixth form now.
Yeah, it's the ideal thing to do at school, because one wouldn't really have the opportunity to do it elsewhere, and it's a chance to examine other references, isn't it? It's a very good thing to do.
It is. It is.
Two other people that whose work he admired very, very much in slightly different directions. One was Chaucer and one was Petrarch. Can people see that? I mean, Father Frank or Michael. I mean, can you see the influence of Petrarch's Canzoni there?
Well, I mean, as an Italian, I should have Petrarch at my fingertips. I'm afraid I'll be rusty. I cannot answer that question. Okay. I'm sorry. No. And you mentioned Chaucer. Well, again, I think I pass it over to Michael.
Yeah. Some of the archaisms I'll take.
I saw no strong connection personally with Chaucer.
Okay.
Not
but
at all.
Apparently these were two people that he said that he admired very much. But obviously that there's also a strong influence from Virgil and Ovid, of course. But, you know,
I very much kept thinking of Chaucer.
Really?
Not that I have very many I haven't read many of the others, but some of just the shaping of the sentences and it made me think of it.
Really?
And the other, I was interested to hear this because at some point I went and studied the Romantic poets, and they attempted to also write these similar sort of elegies, and they were obviously trying to copy this grand style, and it just made me understand that a bit better.
There are many references in English Renaissance plays to the same subjects as the poem that we read, and I'm not sure if it was because it was the fashion of the time or people were directly influenced by Spenser, but real echoes. The glory of our state and kings are shadows, not substantial things. I think that's Shirley. This idea of was it Webster? Something of integrity of life is fame's best friend, which nobly beyond death shall crown the end. And I'm sure there are plenty more. And I'm not sure if that was because that was the fashion of the time, or people were directly influenced by Spenser, but the similarities are quite striking, running through not so much Shakespeare perhaps, but a lot of his contemporaries.
I think it's part of it something to do with the rhyming patterns at the end of the poems, because we're starting to get rhymes, aren't we? Which earlier things don't rhyme, and Shakespeare doesn't always rhyme.
Certainly not. No.
And I think that makes one of the similarities with the Romantic poet. They switch the sentence construction around in order to make some sort of awkward rhyme at the end of each line.
Mick, what was your reaction to it? Any thoughts? if you can unmute.
Yes, sorry, Stig. Yeah, it was, it's good. I enjoyed it. Something a bit different.
You know, I'm just looking at this verse, and I'm just also seeing the two strokes of the Anglo-Saxon line. Something about the weight of these verses.
Yeah.
He now is dead, and all his glory gone, and all his greatness vapored to naught, that as a glass upon the water shone, which vanished quite as soon as it was sought. There's each the half line. The half line each has a heavy stress, and I think this may be some of what gives this verse its kind of. There's a kind of weightiness to it, a sort of not groundedness. It just feels stable. You're not going to knock this over. It's not going to blow away. It's standing where it's standing. I think it's that half line business, which of course comes from Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah. So he seemed to be able to integrate so many of these different influences superbly, in a sort of smooth and lustrous kind of texture, that did have this rhythm to it. It's I wonder whether in the future we might see how far we could go in the Fairy Queen. I don't know. It might be interesting.
Yeah, well, let me go and get my copy. Hang on.
It's really long, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, isn't that quite a thick book even? Yeah,
it's monumental.
I've never attempted it.
Yes, indeed. Or maybe it might be good to read some poetry by Sir Philip Sidney as something to fill out the picture, fill out the context in which he was writing.
On Dante. Right, very good. But I mean, Fairy Queen obviously is very long, but we could maybe do a little.
I mean, I was just for a future meeting, not.
No, certainly. Let me read you. Okay.
I'd like to go to bed at some point this week. Yeah.
I insist on reading one stanza of this. Michael in London asked what verse form it was.
Yeah.
Lo, I, the man whose muse while on did mask, as time her taught in lowly shepherd's weeds, am now enforced, a far unfitter task, for trumpets stern to change mine oaten reeds, and sing of knights and ladies' gentle deeds, whose praises having slept in silence long, me all too mean the sacred muse reads to blazon broad among her learned throng. Fierce wars and faithful loves shall moralize my song. And there's that hexameter at the end. So this is Colin Clout saying, right, I'm now having to do a courtly verse.
Is that the opening?
That's the opening.
Really? Oh, it's it's of a one piece, isn't it? The music's the same. The music's the same.
But I must rue his undeserved wrong. Oh, help thou my weak wit and sharpen my dull tongue. So it's these Spenserian stanzas all the way through.
Interesting, the poem opened with a vision of Verulamium, the ruins of Verulamium. That's near St. Albans.
Yes.
I've been to St. Albans several times, and I always fail to see the ruins of Verulamium. I don't know if there is much left there. I would love to. And also, there is a tradition. The first Christian martyr of England was St. Albans.
Yes.
In still Roman's time, but as a proto-martyr, so to speak. But, I mean, he was not mentioned. I wonder why, if he was a Christian. I mean, Spenser, but I mean, you can't mention everything.
And I'm not sure when Verulamium was. Yes, it was a chief city of the south of England, but but only in late Roman times.
Oh, I see, yeah.
When you had Londinium and York, Everarkham, as the two British capitals. And then St. Albans, late on, in the 360s, the governor of Verulamium raised a statue to Jupiter, I think, in defiance of the Christianization of the Roman Empire.
It's interesting also that, I mean, I'm sorry, going by jumping from place to place, that Francis Bacon, the great statesman and philosopher, and Elizabethan, and then under King James, he was Lord Verulam.
Yeah.
He was a seat of St. Albans.
Oh, right.
And his house was supposed to be a description, again, in John Aubrey. There's several pages devoted to Francis Bacon, incredibly wonderful and rich and fantastic mansion. I assume there's nothing left now.
I mean, he would be a good person to read from one of his essays, perhaps, Francis Bacon. Another.
His essays are memorable, yes.
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing.
Aubrey was a bit of a bitch because he very often put in salacious little references. And he says that Bacon was, and Aubrey puts it in Greek, a paiderastes, a pederast. And he had Ganymedes. Well, again, who is a Ganymede? How many people know who a Ganymede was?
Well, I think
Everyone
enough people who needed to know knew. I think.
Really? Okay. He was kidnapped by Jupiter to serve as his cupbearer in heaven.
As cupbearer, yes. Well, yeah.
So of course, people like St. Augustine made much fun of. Well, these are your gods. These are your gods. Saying to the pagans that that's what they like to do. Kidnap boys for a lead of that.
Yeah, we won't pursue that too. Anyone else? I think we've had comments from most. Catherine or Christo. Any? Edith. Yeah, Edith. You've been very, very silent. Yeah, you didn't. Yes, we didn't hear your reading voice either.
I think she must have gone away and made a cup of tea. Oh no.
No. Oh, was that Christo? Did you speak? Well, yeah, please.
I have very little really to add. I just want to say that I enjoyed the reading. I enjoyed the rhythm. I enjoyed the different voices also, to hear that throughout a reading. I thought that some of the references were, I wouldn't have got it at first, if it wasn't explained. And Prudence, thank you for that. So I would definitely have to go back to it at some stage to understand even more, because it's so rich. But thank you, Prudence, for the information.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'm so glad you appreciated it.
Catherine, any?
So that I enjoyed hearing it being read out loud like that. It made more sense, and I didn't always know what he was alluding to.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it was. I think everyone read it very, very well. It's surprising how little one is affected by weird spellings. If one gets the momentum going. When I was reading parts of it on my own, I had to puzzle for some time looking at a word, but that's because I was maybe doing it too slowly. But if you could get into it and things like that, I think some of the words can make sense.
I think it's the kind of work where you want to read it in a group or hear other people reading it. It's not the sort of book that you can think, oh, I've got an hour to spare before my train comes. I'll just have a quick read of Spenser. I don't think it really works like that. So you need the assistance and the support and the ambience of other people. So I think that's much appreciated.
Well, I think we could bring proceedings to an end, and we can all sit before the fire and toast some crumpets or whatever we do on a Sunday afternoon before going out to eat.
Coffee time.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, thanks so much, Prudence, for
thank you
bringing
very
this
much
to attention and having the right amount of references to guide our journey and not hold us up unduly, which I think is
Correct.
a very important thing.
Well, thank you all for taking part. I'm so glad to have company in this favourite poem of mine.
Yeah, and yes, you've shared your love of his work, and that's just as important as anything else. And I think that the Fairy Queen, I'll have a look at that. Michael, the next meeting, have we got the chap from the De Vere Society next?
No, not next, not at all. No, we've got lots of other things first. No, he's down the line a few months. Okay. My next one that I've noted is the 13th of March, is Mike Seymour. Mike Seymour. Mike, what's his surname?
Mick. Talking about the
French. I'm afraid it's COVID. My brain's not working at its 100%. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He looks unbelievably decadent.
Father Frank, what the Michel Welbeck.
Welbeck, that's right.
Welbeck.
Yeah. And we got Father Frank on the 10th of April speaking on Malaparte.
Oh yeah. Well, thanks for reminding me. I can rub it away on Malaparte, no problem.
And there should be something from this chap from the De Vere Society. I want the final confirmation, but I think it'll be all right in May at some stage, probably the second week of May.
Well, I very much want to be part of that one.
Yeah,
very interested. Yes,
it is a good topic, and let's hope that will do justice to it. I think.
Yeah.
Superb. All right then. Michael, perhaps you would close the meeting. I think. You've managed to survive wonderfully well. I think.
Well, thanks very much. I am feeling pretty unwell, but it was well worth attending. And thanks everybody for coming. Thank you very, very much. And I think it was a thoroughly fruitful and enjoyable afternoon. And I hope to see you all again in a month's time.
Next event.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.